What up, legends? I have to ask you guys a question. Do you find yourself struggling to drop 4,000 damage in a game? If so, look no further. The #1 Loba is here today to give you guys some tips on how to drop your first 4,000 damage game. Without further ado, let's get it, guys. Bam 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 bam. The beauty behind 4,000 damage games is that there is no luck involved. And that might seem crazy to a lot of you guys, but that's the reason why 4Ks are much easier to get than 20 bombs. So let's get into the tips, and I'll try to keep this very brief. The first tip pertains to your weapon of choice. Personally, I like using an AR and an SMG as my long range and short range weapons. Of course, you guys all have your own preferences when it comes to weapons, but if you could just hear me out, I recommend that you use the R301 as your long range and the Volt as your close range, two extremely reliable weapons with very easily controllable recoil. Those two guns right there have gotten me over 100 4Ks by themselves, so please try them out. My second tip for 4K games has to do with your landing spots. I'll go over the landing spots of every map, so make sure you save this for future reference. But let's start with the two current maps. To drop a 4K game on World's Edge, you must land Capital City strictly, or Fragment East and West, whatever you new kids want to call it. To drop a 4K on Stormpoint, I recommend that you land Barometer, Mill, maybe Antenna. I also see a lot of people landing Checkpoint, so I guess with Stormpoint you have some leeway to where you want to land. Stormpoint is garbage. And lastly, we have Olympus. I know Olympus is not in the rotation right now, but it will be next season. Olympus, you must land Estates or Energy Depot. That's it. Nowhere else, I promise you. And as for Kings Canyon, I think we're done with that map permanently, so I'm not even going to get into that. Your landing spot is very important for 4K games. Every spot that I just named is heavily contested, so you should have no trouble finding people here. And for tip number 3, my last major tip will be this idea of farming damage. This one is important because this is how you turn the odds into your favor. Like I stated earlier, there is zero luck involved for 4K damage games, and that's because you're in control of it 100%. I recommend farming damage for those that have struggled endlessly with dropping their first 4K. So this is how you farm damage. To farm damage, you must kill everybody off rip that lands next to you. You'll know that you're in a good spot if you have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 damage within the first couple minutes of the game. Next, when you begin to rotate throughout the map and engage in another fight, this is where you want to play that long game, which is why I recommend long distance weapons when trying to drop 4K damage games. This is where you want to play a little passive within that fight. Maintain separation from the enemy and stay on high ground. Put shots into the enemy, but try not to kill them. Keep your distance, keep putting damage in them, and let them heal over and over again. By using this method, you can easily farm over 2,000 plus damage off of one team alone. And this is in duos. By the way, I recommend doing all your 4K games in duos. It's far easier. If you do knock them, let their teammate revive them and continue the process. Letting them heal to full health is necessary to maximize damage output. After you farmed enough damage off of one team, it's now time to finish them off. And I can't stress this enough. This goes for every knock you get when trying to get your first 4,000 damage game. You must thirst every single knock that you see, whether you knock that person or someone else knocked that person. Because regardless, anytime you thirst someone that is knocked on the ground, you get that damage counted up and added up to your overall damage for that game. So when you're farming a team and you have one knocked, make sure to thirst that person before you finish off the last guy. Again, this is how you maximize damage output for that game. To reiterate, you must do this for every knocked person that you see. If you pull up on a third party and you see a couple guys knocked on the ground, even if you didn't kill them, make sure you thirst them before you engage their teammates. The only caveat I must give for this is to not get tunnel vision when you're thirsting these guys, and that goes for any time you try to thirst someone. Don't sit there and throw the entire game just because you're trying to thirst someone. If you could thirst them, do it. If you can't, don't. Move on. Those are my 3 main tips that have gotten me countless 4K games. It is important that you understand and listen to what I'm saying. It's one thing to sit here and watch this video and think that you now have what it takes to drop a 4K game. It won't be that easy. It'll take a lot more than that. For instance, you should physically be taking notes on what I'm saying if this is something that truly matters to you. Studies show that physically handwriting things down will help you retain that material better, which will translate into your gameplay as well. Some other few side tips real quick. Be aggressive, loot quickly, push every single gunshot that you hear, hit your shots, and most of all, be patient with yourself. It's going to take a lot of games for you to do this, especially if you've never done it before. So be patient, trust yourself, and be confident. Stay tuned for my 20 bomb tutorial. I'll let the rest of this video play out. I think I dropped close to like a 5,000 damage game, something like that this game. I truly hope this helps. Happy New Year's. I'll see you guys next time.
Jump drive activated. Took care of that one. I'm already in the next range. More time to gather supplies. Literally.
I'm a demon!
Champions.
Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam,